And welcome to Behind the Glass. It has been a few weeks since we've had a chance to sit down and do this, but as always, Mikey McNuggets, we got Earl the Pearl to my right. We got Anthony Antonelli behind the glass. And guys, first off, good to be back. It's been probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks since we've done this.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, and it feels longer because we've done a bunch of other non-behind the glass stuff with these ultimate shows. We've been on the panel a bunch. Cavs have been playing a ton of games. Anthony's doing other podcasts without us, without our permission. And we're glad to see him spread his wings and grow as a on-air talent and a producer. But it feels
director.
And director,
yeah.
But we already knew he was a killer director.
Yeah.
The other stuff he's also really good at too. And it's just continuing to kind of blossom before our eyes. But it feels good to be back. No Jay, no Bull, no G, no Tyvis, no Jason, just us. And
Just us.
Let's talk a little football, a little basketball, and a little life. Free agency starts in less than a week, Earl. Well, I guess technically it starts next Wednesday, but the unofficial tampering period when deals start being agreed upon is next Monday. And I feel like for the next 4 days, including today, or I guess 6 days leading up till Monday, this is like the lowest you feel about your team. This is the worst you feel, right? Because come Monday, we'll start hearing these free agent agreements. We all think, and if you disagree, feel free to chime in, Andrew Berry's going to swing for the fences this offseason. He still doesn't have a contract extension as of Tuesday afternoon, so why not go balls to the wall and try to make your team as good as possible? I do think he'll get an extension, but at this point, still not there. So right now you're like, do I love our defensive tackles? We only have Ika and Tomlinson. We got 2 linebackers under contract. We're going to bring back Sione Taki. I'm not sure. I think backup quarterback, what do you do? But as you start getting closer and closer to Monday, the morale starts to rise. And this cycle that G talks about in Browns fandom of high of a game, if it's a loss, it goes back, and then by Thursday you talk yourself right back into it. When the playoffs started, we had Jason Lloyd in this chair say, they're my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC. Then they lose to Houston. Now we're looking around like, is this team as good as we thought they were? And come this time next week, we'll be screaming Super Bowl or nothing again. Right? Am I wrong?
No, man. I mean, I think about it. March 13th is the beginning of the new league year. So happy New Year to all Cleveland Browns fans, right? What happened last year no longer matters. You look at this roster, a whole lot of talent on the roster. There are positions of need. I think defensive tackle, edge rusher for sure, wide receiver, linebacker. So you got some positions of need. I think Andrew Berry is going to do what he always do. I think swing for the fences, but do it in a smart way. I do expect to see maybe 1 or 2 splash free agents, if I'm being honest. I just don't think it's going to come at the wide receiver position. Yeah. I think that if you look at that defensive unit, we was blessed to have DeAnthony Bell on our show, and he talked about how good they were in the first year, and now knowing the language to the defense and where they're supposed to be and just how to play in that style of defense, they're going to be better. And so if you go out there, you can add you an impact defensive tackle or impact edge rusher or another linebacker that's, super athletic, a la Devin White, to play next to Jock, then you doing something. Today, it's the last day that they can place the franchise tag on players. So
when you're watching this, the franchise tag deadline will have passed.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see who's out there and then what type of moves the Browns make. But I definitely expect at least two big-name free agents. I think they're doing a good job of creating money for it now.
Well, that brings me to the next point. And I'm going to ask you this. We'll all answer this as a group here before we talk about specifics. But as of today, they have about $7 million in cap space to work with, thanks in part to the restructure to Denzel Ward. They could create roughly, if they really wanted to, by restructuring a ton of contracts, essentially as much cap space as they need, right? Deshaun Watson, you could restructure him, get about $30 million back. Well, I think we're all in agreement Nick Chubb's deal will be restructured in some capacity. Myles Garrett, I know you and I at least agree on that front. His deal will be restructured. And when we say restructure, it's also not a bad thing for the players. Like, I'm not saying for Myles, it's not a restructure, it's an extension.
Right.
But the higher upfront guaranteed payment via signing bonus and roster bonus that brings the cap hit down. So, this is not the players getting their money. When you hear restructure, a lot of times the connotation is, why would he give money back? He ain't giving money back.
At all.
In terms of Myles Garrett, he's going to get more money, at least in my scenario. Deshaun Watson will get the same amount of money. It just gets spread out over a longer cap period. Amari Cooper, another candidate. Maybe they look at Wyatt Teller again, maybe Batonio, who knows. But they could create as much cap space as possible. I did a stream last night for Bleacher Report where I kind of thought who would make the most sense to restructure. And I landed on Chubb, Watson, and Garrett. And that got you to about $55 million in cap space. I decided not to go Cooper because as a wide receiver at his age on the last year of his deal, if he does hit the proverbial cliff, which he may and he may not, I don't know. He was phenomenal last year, but he's been injury prone. You may not want to tack on more years to his deal. Now with Chubb, you do that because it'd be incentive based. With Cooper, it has to be guaranteed money. So I don't know if he's my favorite option to restructure. What do you feel about Amari Cooper potentially?
I think Amari is a contract extension candidate.
You do extension?
Yeah, if I'm the
over restructure with him.
Restructure, extension, whatever. But if
I could, it would have to be an extension because he's on a last year deal. You're right.
Right. So like I would do a contract extension for him, which ultimately would
lower the cap
hit this year. But I would give Amari at least a 2-year extension. He's 29 years old. He's coming off one of the best seasons of his career. The best. And he's an absolute dog at that position. He's the best the Cleveland Browns have. And I'm not quite sure, even if we address the position, because we will this year, that it's going to be enough to say I can walk away from Amari Cooper next year. I think Amari Cooper is much needed in that locker room to teach these young dudes how to be a professional wide receiver and just go about the day-to-day, grind of getting better at that position. He still can play. He still can ball.
Great, yeah.
And for me, that's why I need this dude on this team at least for another 2 years. I would definitely give him an extension. As you alluded to, Andrew Berry does a great job of making sure these players get paid up front. Roster bonuses, signing bonuses. Shout out to Jimmy.
That, yeah.
And so in the case of Myles Garrett, I think that's a beautiful scenario because if you give him a 4 or 5 year extension to his contract and you make sure the upfront money is good, well, by the time Myles Garrett is on the back end of his career, that cap number is not as significant as it would be right now. And so I would put Amari Cooper in there. I can see the Browns coming up with about 60, 65 million when it's all said and done. We both know it can get done. I'll always go back to the same year that the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. And one of the teams that was in the race was the New Orleans Saints. They entered that offseason minus $95 million.
They skirt the cap in ways no one else does.
So, the fact that they even found themselves in a position to be willing to offer the same amount of money as the Browns was willing to offer, it says a lot about how you can manipulate the salary cap.
The salary cap is real. It does exist.
Right.
But people get so fixated on you're paying X player X money and that adds up to the total. Mm-hmm. When the reality is smart owners and
owners with deep pockets.
I was going to say, well, they're all wealthy, but there's levels to wealth.
Right.
Guys who have Jimmy has the money or the Pattons in Denver who have Walmart money can do a lot more things with their contracts to help ease the burden on the salary cap on a year-to-year basis. And the one thing the Browns have done exceptionally well is they've planned for the salary cap to rise. Mm-hmm. It's no surprise when they structured Deshaun Watson's contract as they did. The biggest cap hits come when they anticipated the salary cap to rise. Now, did they think it would jump $30 million like it did? Andrew Berry said yes. I'm going to take him for his word for that. If it goes down next year for whatever reason, the TV money doesn't come in the same capacity, the same jump, then the Browns are kind of hamstrung. But so is every other team in the league. Yeah. And I think the Browns being proactive in the way they go about signing these deals and, more importantly, structuring these contracts goes a long way to why they're able to be so fruitful and successful in free agency. And I want to ask Ant this real quick because, Ant, you are a Broncos fan, and they just paid Russell Wilson $85 million to go on vacation for 2 years, essentially. Knowing you have an owner like the Pattons who have that kind of Walmart money, they have Jimmy Haslam money, and I don't know who's wealthier. That's they're probably 2 of the 10 wealthiest people.
They probably are, easily.
Until Amazon buys the team, I can't imagine anybody else is going to top that.
It's up there. I mean, they're literally that's the Walmart family. And because it's not going to completely debilitate the Broncos from a financial standpoint, were you in favor of them doing what they did to Russell? Was that the right move in your mind?
I don't know if it was the exact right move. I don't like how they did it. I don't like how they did their contract where they tried benching him and made him sit on the bench last year. I didn't think he was great in Denver, but you still have to respect a man to be a man. And the way they handled the whole situation is kind of left a sour taste in my mouth.
Sure.
If they can handle the $85 million dead cap, then more power to them. My expectations are low for this team for at least the next 3-4 years.
Yeah.
So best best luck to Russ, but it didn't work out.
I know we talked about it on the show earlier, but like the way I kind of look at that whole situation is, you signed Sean Payton to that long-term head coaching contract.
Right.
So Russell wasn't going to be, unless he was Russell of 2013 again, he was going to be the quarterback the whole time. They're going to go out and probably draft a quarterback in the first round here, right?
Yes and no, man, because it depends. Like, if Kirk Cousins really hit free agency, they might. Denver doesn't strike me as an organization that's willing to tear it down to the studs. That's the thing.
Can I tell you why I disagree on that this time around?
What? New ownership?
How the hell do you pay Cousins and Russ Wilson?
Like you said, Walmart money.
Well, the dead cap.
You probably going to Walmart today, so that money coming back.
they could afford it, but this is where the cap becomes real. I mean, you're already paying $45 million, or what's it, $42.5 million this season for a player not on your team.
True.
Kirk's going to cost you $30 million, right?
He might cost you $30 million, but it might be 29 and bonuses and $1 million against the cap. This is what Andrew Berry does all the time.
I guess you could. Well, I guess my point was, the reason I think they're comfortable eating that dead cap is in my thinking. I think they're going to draft a quarterback.
They might.
And then when you add the dead cap hit from Wilson on a rookie contract, you put them together. It's like, that's a palatable quarterback room salary in totality. Now, I didn't think of it in the sense that they go out and get a guy like Kirk Cousins because, you could finagle the cap in that sense.
Like, they just don't strike me as a team.
I didn't think of it. I was looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah,
but I see what you're saying.
I just don't see them trying to like tear this thing down to the studs and start all the way over. Right? I think that they look at their roster and I think it's competent enough that they believe that they can compete. Now, I'm with Ant. To me, Russell Wilson wasn't even a problem. He accounted for 29 of their touchdowns last year, right?
He had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. His numbers
and 3 more on the ground.
Yeah, his numbers on paper were fine.
Like, to me, I mean, hell, we played the Broncos, and Russell Wilson was the reason we lost the game. So
he played very well.
It's a certain team I don't want to see him go play for, if I'm being honest. But I look at the Broncos as an organization that's trying to just keep this thing going. Because if not, then you're trading Cortland Sutton too.
Yeah.
I think you'll get more for Cortland Sutton than you would Jerry Jeudy.
Jerry Judy's a bust.
Well, he's entering the
Sutton
last
is a better
year's
player.
deal. Sutton is better, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. We'll get a better grasp what the Broncos are trying to do in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
if they do make any trades pre-draft. Because then
so
that would indicate it's a full sale, fire sale, and come get whoever you want. Come take your pieces.
Andrew Berry, go get Cortland Sutton.
And just for people listening, too, the Broncos have the 12th overall pick this year.
They've been tied to J.J. McCarthy, which, listen, I don't study quarterbacks coming out the draft. Unless like the Browns had a top 5 pick, then I would. But like they're not drafting a quarterback, so I'm trying not to get that invested.
I don't know if Chicago decides to hang on to Justin Fields, it's gonna cost them a lot to get up from 12 to 1. Man,
I'm not saying Denver's taking, but I'm saying I think J.J. McCarthy's the guy that might slide to 12. And I'm just telling you,
I seen him mocked in the second round.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
The last couple I've seen had him going either
11, 12,
or 13.
It was in the second round to Vegas, to the Raiders.
I would be shocked if he.
I would be too.
Shocked.
I would be too.
For the sake of this, let's just say he's the pick. Are you like? I'm not high on J.J. McCarthy. I saw nothing. Now, granted, they didn't ask him to do a lot.
Right.
And I understand. And they won a national championship, so they did everything right. Even though I hate them, but they did everything right.
Yeah.
I don't know how you take that dude to the top 15, the top first round, frankly. And I'm pretty confident. I bet responsibly with FanDuel, of course.
Of course.
He's a first-round pick. And probably he's going to go way higher than any of us think.
He is, but I don't think he's worth it either.
I don't see it.
These quarterbacks that's coming out, I think they're talented dudes, man.
Do you like any of them? Are you sold on any of the top 4 or 5 guys?
I actually like Michael
Penix
more than I like a lot of these dudes, for real.
If his injury history was clean, different story.
Yeah.
The only reason he's 5th is he's had 2 major season-ending injuries, and he's 25 years old already.
He has.
24, something like that.
That's that Brandon Whedon, man.
He ain't that old, but he ain't a young chicken. He was in college. It's like his 7th year of college. His freshman year was 2018.
Yeah.
It's just hard to think. Think about where you were in 2018.
In college. I was still in college.
What were you doing in 2018?
I was working at, that's when I quit my city job to go work at Progressive. I didn't have this.
I'm confirming, by the way.
This right here, I didn't have this in 2018. I still had waves.
So your hair has been growing as long as Michael Penix has been playing.
Yep.
I just want to confirm. I want to make sure I'm correct on that.
That's accurate.
But I know he played. He's 23 years old. He was born in the year 2000. And 2018 he played at Indiana. Season-ending injury. 2019, 2020, 21 at Indiana. Then he transferred. Yeah, 2018 was his freshman year of college.
Yeah.
Who? For the sake of this, Earl, talk for a sec. I'm gonna go. Who else do you think was in the 2018 recruiting class for quarterbacks?
2018 recruiting class for quarterbacks.
Like, some of his peers are gonna. Oh my God, you're gonna feel so old.
Who is it?
Who did the top 2 quarterbacks in that recruiting class were? We've mentioned one of them today.
2018 going into college or going into the draft?
The 2018 going into college. So the same.
Justin Fields.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
That was right?
Yeah. Those 2 guys are coming up on their
Yeah, they finna get
rookie 5th-year extension decisions and potential contract extensions as Michael Penix is entering the league.
That's crazy.
DTR is in that same class. Anyone else of note?
It'd be interesting though to see how that play, but a quarterback at 12, I don't know. They just, like I said, they don't strike me as an organization that's trying to start all the way over from scratch.
I would agree. I only say because money. Like, the way I was thinking of it was, okay, we're gonna get a rookie quarterback. They still have Jared Stidham under contract. He's making like $10 million. He's just as highly paid back as anybody.
Is Jared Stidham the next Denver Broncos starting quarterback?
He might be, honestly.
I actually kind of like Stidham. If we're being totally honest, I think he could play a little bit. I really do.
You'll cut Russell Wilson to have Stidham as your starting quarterback.
I think you cut Russell Wilson if you think your ceiling with Russell Wilson is 8-8 and you can't bench him because he's not a guy who'd be willing to come off the bench.
I mean, playing in that division, that's a tough division to play in anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you're not.
That's what I'm saying. You can't, like. I actually like what the Broncos did. I know it sounds crazy, and I think financially, it's. Anytime you're paying someone $42 million not to show up, like, please pay me $42 million not to show up. Like, trust me, you won't hear any complaints. But at the end of the day, if you think your ceiling with Russ is average, which I do think, no matter how good that team was, I don't think Russ is good enough to make them average to really good. He's just not that part of his career anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, absolutely. But right now, he's a competent quarterback. He's solid, but he's not great. If you think that with him in your organization, just because of who he is, you can't bring in a young guy to develop because it's Russell's team, and you know the ceiling of Russell Wilson is 8-8, 9-7, 10-6, or 10-7 now in a great season, I'm kind of okay with saying, hey, Russ, go do you. It's just not going to work out here. You know, it's not you, it's me. And let this young guy come in and see what he's got.
That's cool. What I took from this entire situation, like you alluded to, some of these owners got deeper pockets than others, right? And when your pockets is that deep and you're trying to make a move that's in the best interest of your football team, money don't matter. See, this gonna sound crazy because I ain't never had $1 million or $1 billion. But the one thing about money people don't understand is something that we cycle out into the world that eventually recycles back to us. And a lot of
money to make money.
Right. And like you talking about, you know, the family that own Walmart, right? Or you talk about the Haslams. They got other business ventures and they making money hand over fist. So the money that they're churning out via contracts is coming back in some other form. I'm making that point to just to say this. If you've seen the Broncos eat $85 million, for the people who think that the Browns are just stuck with Deshaun Watson because of the money he made, Jimmy Haslam has never struck me as a dude that's just willing to sit on his hands when something is not going right. You can bet your bottom dollar that if, and I don't believe we're going to ever get here, but if Deshaun Watson don't end up being that dude and can lead us ultimately to the Super Bowl, the Browns will move on from him. And they'll eat whatever cap hit they got to eat. So I really believe that.
I'm glad you brought that up because I have those numbers for today because I was going to bring this up on I brought this up earlier in the show. In 2024, his cap hit $64 million. That's before a restructure. So it's 64, 64, 64 final 3 years of his deal. If they were to cut him today, Now, Russell Wilson was cut yesterday.
Let's do this from next year. Let's do this exercise.
Well, I'm going to start in 2024
Okay.
for each of the next 3 years. So if the Browns decided to cut Deshaun Watson today, Russell Wilson, $85 million cap hit. Do you know what Deshaun Watson's cap hit if he was cut today is? His dead cap.
It's probably somewhere about $100 million.
Is it 60? Around 65?
His cap hit 64. What would the dead cap hit be?
It's over
if they
$100
cut him
million.
today?
They got to be.
It's $201 million. So guess what? Breaking news: the Browns
They
should not and will not
cut him this
Deshaun
year.
Watson. If they cut him before the start of next season,
Okay.
what do you think the dead cap number is? Russell Wilson got 85, and by the way, the 85 is part of the new contract the Broncos signed him to. That's not part of the contract they traded for, by the way. When he got to Denver, they signed him to a 5-year extension, that's what the 85 came from. He never played a day on the new contract.
I'm about to be all the way wrong on this. I want to say like somewhere around $72 million if he's cut after 2025.
I'm going to say 95.
$137 million.
Okay.
Now, your number was after 2025.
Okay.
Entering the final year of his deal, if the Browns were to cut him, it'd be a $73 million dead cap hit. Jimmy has him as much money as anybody. If he wants to eat that and decide that's the best path forward for us, if it comes to that, I don't think it will, but just for the sake of this discussion.
It bet not.
But 137 to me feels like too much just to let go. But I don't know. You're right. Like I would have said 8 before yesterday. I would have said 85 was way too much.
Well, yeah, before yesterday, I definitely would have said 85 was way too much. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen an NFL team eat that much cap money
It's a
ever.
record.
That was a record?
85 was a record.
Yeah, see.
The most I ever remember was the Falcons with Matt Ryan eating $40 million while he was playing for the Colts.
Right.
That was the most I could remember. Yeah.
So to see that now, after you read that off, Jimmy not doing that. Matter of fact, Jimmy, don't do that. Take that money, go put that towards that stadium. Like,
he's got
go
other.
do that. Yeah. And Deshaun Watson, you do your part, so this is never even a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we done with it. So.
Yeah, let's move on. We don't have to discuss no more.
Yeah.
Ant.
Real quick, before we move on. So Wilson was $85 million. Matt Ryan was $40.5.
Look at that.
Aaron Rodgers was $40.3. Carson Wentz was $33.8. And then Wilson again at $26 when he left the Seahawks. So Wilson has 2 of the top 5 dead cap hits.
My man have made so much money getting cut, it ain't funny.
It's just crazy that this $85 million comes from the extension the Broncos signed him to after acquiring him, and they gave up 5 picks and 3 players to get
That's
him.
the part that man, you gave up a lot not to see it through.
Yeah, like
at least we seeing it through. I mean, like
for now, yeah.
But now we are, but like, man, you got to see that through. You gave up a lot of assets, man.
I mean,
especially when knowing like Russell Wilson
was older.
I mean, he's older, but to me, he was not the reason why their season was the way it was last year. But to each his own. New ownership group, they gonna bring in their own people. They have their own vision on how they want to go about it with their team.
Him and Sean Payton just seemed like a weird mix too. And I think at the end of the day, even though if you gave Sean Payton truth serum, I don't think he'd say it was Russell's fault.
Yeah.
I think in Sean Payton's world, it's my way or get the F out.
Yeah.
And him and Russell could never kind of come to that mutual understanding that him and Drew Brees had. And also, and I'm curious, I'm going to ask this, but I don't necessarily mean about this specific example. And you guys take this in any example you want. But Sean Payton's whole career in New Orleans, he had Drew Brees, right? And when you coach and a quarterback and an offensive-minded coach like Sean Payton, and then a quarterback like Drew Brees, that was the perfect pairing. They thought they saw the same, adjusted the same. Obviously, it was a perfect pairing. If all you know is Drew Brees, and then you come into a situation with a guy like Russell Wilson, who I think he came into that situation thinking, this is my Drew Brees, and it's not. Is it on the coach to adapt? Is it on the player? I don't want to say to be better, but is it on the player to find a happy medium? Or is it a situation like I think we saw where the expectation of one does not meet the reality of the other, and you never kind of find that middle ground?
Well, I think in his situation, you walked into Denver, Russell Wilson was already there as a lot of the other pieces and parts that was on that roster. And when you look at that, I think the best head coaches kind of adapt to what said player does well. they don't force a player to adapt to their style. You know, not only did he have Drew Brees for the entirety of his coaching career, but then he also took a year off from coaching altogether. And it seemed like when he came back that the dude was a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
You know, you was talking out one end of your mouth and not producing on the other. You said all that you said. You know, what's his name? Nathaniel Hackett?
Hackett talked a lot of smack to
talked
Hackett.
a lot of stuff about Hackett.
And then held an L.
And then held an L, a huge one. So, like, those things, it kind of, like, raised the red flag. And I think that if he looked at Russell Wilson and said, this is my next Drew Brees, then bad job out of him, because we do this a lot, right? We look at certain quarterbacks, we see their stature, and we say, okay, he's compared to this dude. Well, just because Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are the same height, they have two totally different playing styles. And as a coach, especially a coach that's been sitting at home for a year, you should have did a better job of watching the film and evaluating the situation that was at hand.
And Ant, please correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Sean Payton say one of the reasons he chose Denver over some of the other organizations that were recruiting him to be their head coach was they had a veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson he felt like he could win with right away? Am I misremembering that?
I think you're remembering that right. I'll be honest. When it comes to the Broncos, I haven't followed them super closely because we're following the Browns so every day in and out. So they kind of
I do remember that being part of the reason why he
that was part of the reason why he ended up there. But just think about this, right? Like if you look at the Broncos, because I don't think Sean Payton is the coach that he once was. Like the New Orleans Saints fleeced the Broncos, and so did the Seattle Seahawks. Like they're sitting here, moved on from Russell Wilson. I don't think Sean Payton is going to be the coach long. Like if they have another season or two, like they just had, you're not going to have him as a coach. So you'd have lost all these draft picks. You'd have lost a lot of capital to rebuild your franchise over two horrible moves.
And they're lucky they have Walmart money, because it's one thing to pay Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure Sean Payton also signed an $85 million deal. And then you're going to be paying two head coaches, and that adds up quick. Now, he could afford it. Do not get me wrong.
Man, the Browns been playing.
He could afford it. Yeah, the Browns have played.
Man, they've been paying multiple head coaches. Like I think it was like 82 coaches at once, like something like that. So
it is absurd how that happens.
Yeah.
And what is going on in the world of television, entertainment, video games? Enlighten us today on what we may have missed on that side of the spectrum.
The Halo TV show still sucks. It's halfway through the season 2, and then one of our favorite shows, House of Dragons, is coming back. It got announced June is its release.
Is it really?
Yes.
Did you watch the Avatar?
No, I
on
won't.
Netflix?
I won't do it.
It was so bad.
I won't do it.
It was so bad.
I love the original. I won't do it.
I put it on one night because I needed something to fall asleep to, and I was like, oh, this kind of reminds, like, it brought me back to like the childhood memories of it. It was just not good.
Yeah, no, I won't do it. If you like animated Star Wars, Bad Batch Season 3, 4 episodes in, last season of the show, so go enjoy that too.
Earl, where's Warrensville at right now?
They are headed to the regional semifinals. They play Keystone Wednesday.
Is that Sweet 16?
Yeah. Keystone is 26-0.
Where's Keystone?
I have no idea. I just know the game is in Stowe, Ohio.
Where's Stowe?
Somewhere in Ohio.
I think it's
Stowe?
west? Southwest?
I think so.
Maybe.
So I asked my daughter on the way to school today, and she was telling me about it.
How far is it? Is it a?
It's a nice little drive.
It's a nice little drive.
It's a nice little drive. The game is Wednesday.
You going?
I'm going to try to make it down there. Definitely going to try to make it down there. Got to support them, man.
Are they the favored? I know Keystone, I saw in the graphic, was 26-0, but obviously, other than your daughter playing on
I don't know if they're the favorite, but I know earlier in the season we matched up against a team that was undefeated, and we handled our business. So that was, to me, they had 2 games. I can't remember the name of Loudonville. And then they played L'Oreal. And those 2 schools right there, to me, were huge measuring tests of where they were. I really think they can go win state. Now, of course, I'm biased as hell, but
yeah,
you know.
But we're biased too. We think Warrensville, if they don't win, it's a disappointment. They're the best team in the state.
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Absolutely. Best team in the state. Got the best mayor in the city. I mean, like, hey, shout out to Brad.
Is Warrensville's gym, is that one of the nicer gyms? I have to imagine. Yeah, because that's
the whole setup is beautiful. Like, they got their own Warrensville cafe where you can go buy snacks and stuff like that for the game. They got the merchandise shop where you can go buy merchandise. You walk in, Brad Sellers Court, like it's a beautiful, beautiful arena. And I think the best thing about it is you know who Michi Johnson Jr. is, plays for South Carolina. His
And they're
dad,
balling right now, by the
his
way.
dad is the head coach.
At South Carolina. Yeah.
His dad is the head coach at Warrensville. And, you know, to see his dad come back to his alma mater where he won a state championship at and actually restore the boys program. Now you have
the boys doing well, too?
The boys are doing well, too.
Awesome.
He just won Coach of the Year. You know, the boys won the district championship as well. So, you know, you see them now integrated, and at Warrensville now with both basketball teams, the track team, getting the football team on track, their sports program is really, really taking off. So
that's awesome. Awesome. We'll wrap up in 1 sec. Ant, what's up?
We got to talk to Steve, Director Steve, because I'm back here switching cameras, and the Stream Deck, whatever this thing is, has like sticky stuff on the buttons, and we got to talk to him about this. This is gross, Steve.
Swinger Steve.
You gotta clean at least the camera 3 button. This is
Sticky Steve.
Sticky Steve.
Sticky Steve.
Shout out to my guy Halim, by the way. Saw him at the gym yesterday, watches all the time. He sent super chats in, and he said, I'm the guy who's always a little negative, but it's how I've been.
Hey,
I'm trying to think of what the word he used. I've been hardened as a Cleveland fan forever.
It is so funny, man, because we behind the glass, right? And so
shout out to you, Halim. You was getting work in the gym yesterday. It's a hell of a workout.
So it's a dude who hashtags all the time. Keep Mikey behind the glass. Mikey sucks. It's this one dude who always says, man, Earl kills the show. Like, the beauty of this thing, they either love you or hate you.
No, Halim's the homie.
I know Halim is. I'm just speaking overall. But the beauty of it is they all tune in.
Hey, you don't have haters, you ain't got fans. That's a bullshit. I've told you this story before.
Yeah.
I had my first death threat framed in my bedroom.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying hard enough. I don't know if I see a lot of like anti-Anthony propaganda.
I don't know if you're on air enough.
That's true too.
Yeah.
That's
when
fair.
people see you, it's when they get mad.
Yeah. You actually safe.
Yeah, I really do have like the best job. I'm like the backup quarterback at Blue Mountain State, man. Like I get all the perks and do half the work.
Who's last thing? I was listening to who was talking about this. Hold on. They're talking about it was Mark Sanchez. It was on the Ryan Russillo podcast. And this was so obviously Sanchez, first quarterback in NFL history to lead his team to the AFC or a conference championship game in his rookie and his sophomore seasons, right? He was never that good.
Right.
But he starts off and has this tremendous success. Rex Ryan gets a tattoo of him, you know, like the whole 9 yards. Then he bounced around the league as a backup. And Russillo asked me, he's like, why were you able to make the transition from a bona fide starter, and granted he was never great, but a guy
he was a starter
and had success in the playoffs.
Right.
He beat the Patriots in the playoffs, and outside of Eli Manning, nobody does that. Like Mark Sanchez and Eli Manning had more playoff success against Tom Brady than like any other quarterbacks ever, which is kind of crazy to think about. But well, not Eli, but Mark is.
Yeah, whatever.
But like,
I knew you was.
but I'm just so the question was like, you were a successful starter in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden no one wants you. And not every quarterback has he said ego, I'm not sure if ego is the right word, but had the ego to kind of accept the fact that your time had come and passed, and now you have to be the next generation to help get these next guys ready. And by the end of Sanchez's career, he was a really valued commodity at the backup quarterback spot. He bounced around. A lot of guys wanted him as a lot of teams wanted him as their mentor to the young next coming up quarterback. And his answer was just like, I'm competitive as hell, but at the end of the day, I'm a realist. And I realized, and I always thought I could play. Like, don't get me wrong. He's like, I wanted to prove myself, but my time had passed. Like, the league had told me I'm not good enough, but I'm damn good enough to be this. So I made myself one of the best backup quarterback I could be.
I mean,
and like just to hear someone kind of verbalize that, I could see why it's so hard for some to take on that same role.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for him, kudos to him. Like, whoever groomed him and was in his corner and like was helping him make that transition, clearly did him some favors. And then some stuff you internally born with. Like, if he's a realist like that and he understands it, cool. And it's not like he went out on a cart, right? It's not like he went out due to injury, because I know guys who had their career ended.
Totally different.
Totally different situation. And it took them a long time to get over it, to accept that reality. And then you have guys who've played football their entire lives, like literally from 6 or 7 years old. and they've never done anything else. So there's this real fear there. How do I survive in the real world as a real man?
Yeah.
Like, do I have the social skills? Do I know how to go interview for a job? Like, you know, can I manage my money? Can I manage a household? These are things that people like you and I, we learn through trial and error, you know, just going through life every single day. But these athletes, the ones especially who make it to that professional level, man, they've been honing in on this skill since they was a kid.
Yeah.
So everything they've done has been geared towards playing in a league that on average only wants you for 3.5 years, and then they kick you back into the real world broke, uneducated, and then you mentally and emotionally broken, probably physically broken on top of that. So to see and hear about a player who that didn't happen to, I love hearing that.
And just like, and I know we got to wrap because we got to go. We got things to do tonight. But you know, when he says, "I thought I could play," but 32 teams said, "No, you're not the guy for us." You know, I've applied to, before I came here. Like, you know, I got the job in Texas. I applied to like 70 jobs. You're just waiting for like that one offer. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it sucks to get most people don't even answer you if you don't get a job. Like, it sucks to not hear back, or
right.
I think I'm a perfect fit for this, and you see they hire someone else, and in mine, I'm like, I know I'm better than that person. Like, why? And then, you know, you be patient, it happens, but in football, you know, the patience, it's really tough to get back into it. So I just thought it was a really mature answer, and something I guess we kind of take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think everyone's built that way. And it kind of makes me look at the mind, and Flacco is a perfect example of it. Like, Flacco, when he came on, I want to start. Like, I still think I'm a starter.
Right.
I'm not willing to necessarily be QB2 just to be QB2. Like, if someone beats me out, so be it. But I'm not coming in just
I'm not walking in just to be somebody's backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't.
And that's fair. And that's
shouldn't.
one. And I'm not saying one mindset's right or wrong, just two different mindsets. But it was just kind of an eye-opening statement from Sanchez to actually hear him describe, I'm a realist. I understood my time had come and gone. And I'm not ready to quit playing football. Like, these paychecks are too good. How can I prolong my career by 6-7 years? It's to be the best damn backup quarterback in football. And kudos to you. It was just if you didn't listen to it, it was Mark Sanchez on the Ryan Russillo podcast probably a week and a half ago. But really interesting. So.
Sweet.
All right, we got to wrap. We'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. For Anthony behind the glass, Erna Pearl McNuggets. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. Peace.
Peace.